Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. Can you recall a time when your faith and trust in God has been tested? I'm glad you're with us today to be able to share in this programme. Today I'd like to look back in this continuing series of memorable conversations I've had in my time here as host of Wesley Impact. We're reflecting on memorable conversations over Wesley Impact over 15 years, and I'm encouraged to hear how the Christian faith is central to the lives of so many people in our community. In 2007, we were joined by Australian violinist Niki Vasilakis, and we were looking at that conversation and also relive Niki performing Amazing Grace, recorded in the same year. And then afterwards, I'll be sharing with you from the account of Jesus walking on the water. When Peter joins him on the water, he begins to doubt as he's concerned about the wild weather, and Jesus saves him. But first, you know Wesley Mission works with people across all areas of our community. For some, Wesley Mission is an aged care provider. For others, we're working in out-of-home care. And even more, we're a well-established and respected provider of family and community support services. To a number of school students in inner west of Sydney, Wesley Mission is a provider of out-of-school hours care. We look at some of this, the work that we run actually in Epping West Public School. Do look at this story and see it as a new exciting area of the work of Wesley Mission as we seek to help all the people that we can. It's a very exciting day really, because we're opening the fifth of our USH programs that we've got around Sydney and this extended area, and it's the second actual building that we put up as part of a program. This is at Epping West, and it's very much a growing area. I was talking not long ago to the school principal, and she was telling me that the numbers have grown phenomenally in the 21 years since she came here.
We're so happy to have Wesley Mission open this USH. We need a quality after-school care for our kids. At Epping West, we're very committed to developing all our children as creative, successful learners. And it's very heartening to me as I get to know the staff, and in particular work with Leanne, to see that the philosophy of personal responsibility, independence, creativity and play are so much a part and parcel of this centre.
The children who attend our centre benefit in a lot of different ways. We try to incorporate the values of both Wesley Mission as well as Epping West Public School, and we think of it as continuing education for the children so that they start their day with us and have the opportunity to learn and grow and experience different things, and then they bring that into the school, and then they finish their day and they come back and they tell us about it, tell us about the amazing adventures that they had at school, and then we use that so that we can continue that education. So what they're learning in school can be built upon even more by us here.
We have all kinds of things going on. We have craft activities, outdoor activities, group activities, science experiments. We try to keep it as varied as possible. There's so many different benefits. There are social interaction with a variety of different children of different ages, of different abilities, across cultures as well, people that they wouldn't necessarily always come into contact, which of course in the end is going to always benefit the kids, so that the kids are always growing up in environments that are healthy and safe and supportive, and where everyone's effectively having good relationships, because that's so important for a community, for the world really, to everyone to have good relationships, and that's effectively what Wesley's always doing, is trying to build good relationships.
So a lot of the parents who come here let us know that there are certain benefits that they appreciate. One of them is that when their child finishes school, they have a quiet place to come and do homework. For some of the older kids, that's very nice for them. We also make sure that they're well fed, that they have healthy, nutritious meals, and that they just burn a lot of energy. And our parents really appreciate that we don't limit what they want to do. So if they're got that energy and they've been pent up all day at school, they're going to come here and they're going to play all the socket and cricket and rugby that they want to. And so by the time they're going home, you know, parents are lucky if they're not napping in the car, because we make sure we put them through the ringer here and burn as much energy as they can.
We've got some really wonderful children part of our centre. We've got a great staff team that works together. We build good relationships with our families and parents that are a part of our service. And we have a lot of creative individuals as part of both our staff team and our student team. It's just a really exciting environment to be a part of.
If you would like to learn more about Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can find help in our community services, connect with our church and congregations, discover a volunteer role that suits you, stay up to date on the latest news and information, donate to support our work, and help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and subscribe to receive the latest news and information about Wesley Mission directly into your inbox. Visit wesleymission.org.au.
Don't hesitate to be in touch with Wesley Mission if we can be of help to you or a loved one. Across all areas of our work, we do all that we can to stand alongside people and walk with people in their need. Our contact details are on the screen now, and I always look forward to hearing from you. I'd like to look back on a conversation now I had with Niki Vasilakis, an Australian violinist, in 2007. She was new to the scene then, establishing her career. So some of this information is out of date now, as she's now an established musician, performing in many prominent places and with orchestras all around the world. Let's look at that conversation together with Niki. I've been reading all about your life and all the things that you've done in your very young, comparatively young life. You've played here with all the great symphony orchestras on the Domain to the crowds. Tell us, where does that love of the violin come from?
It's kind of an accidental love of the violin. I started really young. I started when I was 4, and I didn't come from a musical family, but my parents put me on violin because they had a lot of trouble handling me. They think that I had ADHD as a little kid, and they didn't want to go down the road of medications or anything like that. And someone convinced them that maybe if they put me on an instrument to channel my energy every day, it might help with their parenting. So that's the reason why I started violin, and over time I fell in love with it. I had a lot of zeal for it as a young child, I remember that, but when I was about 12, after taking a few years of lessons, I really just had a moment where I fell in love with it, and I knew I wanted to do it for the rest of my life.
Gosh, that's an amazing way of dealing with activity, isn't it? To give somebody a violin and let them develop it. Was there a point at which you really knew this was going to be something you would do for a career or something that was going to determine your life? Was there some moment when that happened?
Absolutely. I was 12 when that happened. I just changed to a new teacher, and I started studying at the Conservatorium in Adelaide, and I just started high school at the same time, and I had just the most amazing lesson with my new teacher, who was an amazing performer in her day, and she just brought the music to life for me in a way that I'd never felt before. And I just remember not knowing that I had the talent or the ability to do it, but I just knew I wanted to more than anything. I knew that this was what I was going to do. So
was there real mentoring going on there with somebody that you sort of looked to and respected? Absolutely,
yes, definitely. You know, musically, she was the most amazing mind, and she taught me so many things over the years that I was at high school. I was really having an education as an adult in music and in just bringing music to life, really.
And you're doing that for other people yourself now, where you get the opportunity?
Yeah, I have that chance now. I'm teaching now back where I studied at the Adelaide Conservatorium. I just have a few students, but it's great. It's a really, really wonderful thing to have the opportunity to do.
Now, I know you're a committed Christian, and you say quite openly that you're as happy playing in church as you are anywhere else. I mean, is that because you see this as in some way related to a sense of calling and a God-given gift?
Definitely, and it's been something that I've wrestled with over that whole time, because when you start something at such a young age, you almost feel like you didn't have the choice. And as a young child, I just, having that knowledge that I was meant to do it for no good reason other than just the sense that I had, and over years working out that that's actually has been God in my life, and just all the things and doors that He's opened up for me, and just the way that just over the years things have worked out. I just can't help but see that God's hand has been on that side of my life, and there's never been a moment where I felt that there's a conflict and I need to give it up, and so I really feel that there's more to be done, and it's.
And do you feel especially connected some way in terms of God when you're playing?
Definitely. I mean, I feel very lucky that, I mean, playing violin and playing any instrument is such an amazing way to connect with your emotions, and for musicians it's an amazing gift to be able to, you know, in a hard time, be able to take your instrument into a quiet place and play. And for me, instead of just playing for the sake of playing, I've had this opportunity to really play to God and express my emotions to Him through that. And I feel that when I play, I feel like I'm speaking words. So sometimes when I'm talking in a rehearsal, I say, oh, the notes, and I accidentally say, oh, you know, when you're saying this, and because I really feel that it's an expression, and it's just as real to me as expressing through words.
Look, this is a question I often ask of people who are musicians. I know that the classical tradition is very much important to you, and you present as not only play, but I know that you've been involved in broadcasting, and all that's very exciting, I'm sure. But the music you play in church and the music you play when you're in a symphony orchestra in Brisbane or Sydney are going to be very, very different, aren't they? How do you handle all that? I mean, how do you see music and style?
Well, I mean, it's completely different playing a concerto with a symphony orchestra as opposed to standing at church and joining in with, you know, whatever songs they're singing on the stage. And so as far as just technically and all that kind of stuff, it's just a completely different world. But I guess for me, music isn't just something that you turn on for a certain genre of music. For me, I love all different types of music, and so I find it quite easy to connect with so many different genres. So it's not just classical, but I find that through classical and through, I mean, you know, composers like Bach, he originally wrote for the church, and his music, even though it's typical classical repertoire, I feel like it's so amazingly deep and spiritual. I feel like he's saying so many incredible things through it. So even though there's no words again for that, and it's totally different to what you would do in modern churches, for me, it's all interconnected.
And so much of that classical music was really based on the passion and death of Christ, wasn't it? That people sometimes listen to this and forget actually really what it's about. Some of the deep stuff.
Yeah, often. I mean, the history of so many pieces, and it's been great as a performer now to actually research whatever it is that I'm playing, and it could be based on something that's going on during a period of war or a period of really difficult times in the life of the composer, and then definitely there is so much music that's written you know, through the church or just between the composer and just this relationship with God that they have. That it's quite interesting, the history behind a lot of the music.
Niki, have you got a moment when you've been performing, it's a very special moment for you, something you look back on and said, that's what I really remember most of all?
Well, most of the time I'm pretty scared, because what I do, I generally would be standing in front of an orchestra of people who I respect and am quite frightened of, because they're amazing musicians, and I'm scared that I'm going to fall apart because I'm playing there without music. And, you know, I play a piece that goes between 30 and 50 minutes without music, and the preparation process for that is many, many months. And so it's very difficult to actually get outside of that fear. And there's been times, and actually the more I do it now, the more comfortable I've become, and I'm having more and more moments of, wow, this is just amazing. But I guess it's interesting. Like a few years ago, I got to play for the Symphony Under the Stars in the Domain here in Sydney with the Sydney Symphony, and you know, there were 100,000 people there, and I mean, it'll never get better than that. It's just awesome and absolutely amazing. And I remember just going, just got to take this in and enjoy it. But as you just said, the question, I thought, you know, last year a friend of mine proposed to his girlfriend, a friend of mine from church, and he invited me to come with him early in the morning with a quartet and wake her up out the front of her house and play a song that he wrote for her about how much he loved her and just how grateful he was to God for her in his life. And I think for me, having the opportunity to be part of something like that was pretty awesome. So
I hope because of this you don't get hundreds of people writing in and saying, we'd like you to come and play on some romantic occasion.
Just friends. But for an opportunity like that, and to be able to play violin and be able to be part of that.
Look, I also know that you're very concerned about social issues too, and that's a very important part of your life. How's that developed?
Well, it's just been something since I was a young child. I mean, my father is a minister, and I've grown up in a church, and it's been something that, in a way, I've been wired to do because of my upbringing, but also something that over the years I've taken on just a real, I guess, a burden for some different issues. I mean, I feel particularly at the moment, I look at just the local church and I look at the church that I go to, and, you know, the kids that come to our youth group, and so many of them are from the most crazy backgrounds and upbringings, and I think, you know, just in our doorstep, just within the local church, there's so much that we can help with, and I just feel all of my time outside of violin is that. But then for me, I've got a real heart for working with Indigenous communities in rural Australia, and I've just over a short period of time lately seen that through my music and through the teaching and just through, I guess, the contacts that I've been making. I've had the opportunity to try and pull together teams of people to actually start doing some training and music programs that are going to help the community.
You're going to play for us Amazing Grace, and this year that's a very special song for people all over the world, and so it's going to be exciting to listen to. Thanks for having the opportunity of being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Niki, and it's encouraging to see that she's continued with her music and certainly with that career. Now, normally I'd invite you to join Craig Gower and the Wesley Impact Band as they bring us a song from the studio. But today, I'd like to do something a little different. When Niki joined us in 2007, she performed Amazing Grace on her violin. It was such a special performance, and one that has been long remembered by our production team who worked on the programme, and also by many viewers. I thought you'd like to share that performance once again. This is Niki Vasilakis and her violin performing the very familiar and wonderful words of Amazing Grace. Jesus walking on the water is recorded in Matthew, Mark and John. But it is Matthew who provides us by far the fullest and most detailed account. In the Gospel account here, we see there's a linkage between Peter coming to Jesus on the water. And so in Matthew chapter 14, 22 to 33, immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was always a considerable distance from the land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they cried. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it's I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the water, walked on the water, and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why do you doubt?" And then they climbed into the boat. The wind died. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." I want to concentrate upon Jesus' command of the storm and pick out from it some lessons about faith. Faith lives in the truth of God. In verses 27 and 28, you're very conscious of the importance of this truth. Jesus is the great I am. You know this from the Old Testament. I am who I am. I am, and the I am sayings of John, which are so powerful. But they reference what would be understood by those who first heard these words as linked to the name of God. Faith will always be grounded in spiritual growth. The trial of the disciples had to face in this moment on the water really made them fearful. But we also know from verse 33 that they came to a place of real worship and acknowledgement. Truly, you are the Son of God. Faith is the opposite of fear and arouses in us action, something to do. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. So fear to faith. That's really the meaning of this passage. Faith can be seriously and severely tested in our lives, and certainly in this whole account of Peter's walk. Faith requires dependence upon God. And in this case, when Peter began to sink, Jesus stretched out his hand and questions him and questions our faith, I think. Verse 31 is not just a word for Peter, but one that speaks to all of us. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" Does that mean something to you? Can you relate to it? Are there times when we doubt? Where is Jesus asking you to display faith and trust today? Where are the dangerous moments in your life when you find yourself sinking in the water because you've lost your sight on Christ, you've lost your sense of confidence and real hope? You know that Julian of Norwich was a great Christian spiritual writer from the Middle Ages. She wrote, "God does not keep an extra supply of goodness that is higher than faith, and there is no help at all in anything that is below it. Within faith is where the Lord wants us to stay." Within faith, living in faith. So this isn't just really a story about Jesus walking on the water. It's an example of how every day in our lives we need to be able to have confidence and trust, and also believe that he will be with us in the midst of whatever the storms are. We get letters from people who tell us about the storms in their lives. We've had much of it in Australia. We have the storms that are physical, but we know that at the heart of everything, having our confidence in the one who reaches out his hand and lifts us and gives us that place, abiding in faith is the only antidote to the fear that can tear our lives apart and can hold us back and leave us in a place of despair. Have faith today. Reach out. You can be certain that he will never, never let you down.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A 5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send us an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on social media. You can also connect through Keith's blog and stay up to date on all the latest news and information from Wesley Mission, wesleymission.org.au.
Thank you for once again being part of the Wesley Impact programme today. I always enjoy spending time with you. If Wesley Mission can be of help to you or a loved one in any way, please don't hesitate to be in touch. The contact details are on the screen now. Do join us next week when we'll continue to look back at some of the more memorable conversations that I've shared as host of this programme for the past 15 years. Have a great week. Lovely to have you with us, and I hope you really are finding life is kind to you in these challenging times. God bless you and have a good week.
Wesley Mission walks alongside people of all ages struggling with homelessness, addictions, mental health issues and financial stress. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.